When you take away not being able to see, the first thing that sets in is panic. And I'm willing to bet there are some entrepreneurs here that play it cool on the surface, right? They're like a duck, but deep down are panicked, are really panicked. There I am. I'm 40 feet in the air. I'm suspended by a wire above me that I'm clipped to. My 2 feet are also on a wire. I can't see anything. My 2 hands are on a rope that's fraying. I don't have gloves on or anything. My palms are sweaty. And I am silently freaking out because I can't see what's next, what's behind, what's near me. And there are 4 other men on this rope course challenge, this particular segment, or in the last segment of it. There are 4 other people there just yelling. Like they're just making noise.
Right.
And I have no, the only option I have at this point is to stay as still as possible, but I am hovering on a rope, holding a rope, suspended by a rope. And there's no real option for me to move forward. I am helpless. I'm scared. I'm laughing because I don't really have another option, right? I'm like sort of comically helpless in that case. And like this progression, this challenge, like has to move forward. So I'm also slowing everyone down and not really helping them for us as a team to get across this challenge. And dude, I'll tell you, I freaked out. I'm still freaking out about that moment.
Well, so I'm going to give a little context, just so we just did a retreat out in San Diego with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And one of the last activities we did was a high ropes challenge course. It wasn't your typical zip line if you've ever done zip line. It was 4 of you, 5 of you. I forget how many were up there at the time.
We started with more, but by the end of it, 5 of us.
Dwindled, which is a whole other story. But you could not move on from one part of the course to the next without the entire team moving as a unit. And on the last section of that challenge course, all of you were invited to blindfold. Not everyone could have blindfolded. That would have been, I think, impossible.
Wouldn't do everybody. 3
of you decided you were going to blindfold. 2 put them on and quickly dropped out of the challenge.
Yes.
And you kept it on because you're crazy. And
fair.
That's what you do. And so for the last, I would you say that was about 20 feet that you had to go? Maybe more. It had to be further. 20 yards.
Yeah, maybe 10 yards. So, 30-ish feet, probably.
It looked longer than 10 yards.
It felt like forever.
And we'll just say 20 yards because I think it was probably more than 10. Those 20 yards, you had to get across from point A to point B, blindfolded with their guidance, yelling, and not necessarily communicating the best.
Understatement of the year. Also, I'll add this, like, they're all like, it's not like they're just going across it kind of easily, right? They're also on the ropes course, and they're also standing on wire, holding rope, trying to get across this thing. And the obstacle was
they could see,
but the obstacle involved us all getting through. It was like a 2-phase thing, and we had to all cross into phase 2 at the same time.
Right. I remember because one guy had crossed over into phase 2, and they're like, not everyone's there yet. You got to go back into phase 1 before everyone gets there before you can cross into the next phase.
I do not remember that because I was panicked, and also I couldn't see that anybody would be there.
I was 40 feet down on the ground, and I laughed when he said that because they were already moving on. You're still behind, and they're already trying to move on to the next one, forgetting that they're responsible for you.
They're responsible, yeah. And I think there were moments where my awareness was higher than others. I can recall them where I was attentive to like, okay, I can hear their voices, but when you can't, this is what I really think changed for me. When I was blindfolded, it made everything else high stake. Everything became high stakes because I don't have any context to anything. I don't know if I'm moving right or really. I kind of know my direction because I'm pretty spatially aware just from athletics, but I don't know my distance because all of those things revolve around you being able to see.
And the wire wasn't going straight; it went at an angle because it was coming
Yeah,
to a point at the center. So
yeah, it was like a diamond. It was like an hourglass shape.
yes, yeah. So you weren't just
So
like
we had to get to the middle and then go across.
yeah.
And so I don't know if I'm moving an inch or a mile. I really can't tell the difference. And again, just what I've observed after the fact, it would be very difficult for me to communicate with someone that can't see because my context to that entire exercise is sight. The only way that exercise works is you can see, right? It's when you have one person there that can't see, the other four can, they don't have a clue what I'm experiencing. They're just like, hey, put your hand here. I'm like, I can't see here.
Yeah,
Where is here?
and they did that many a times over. Or put your foot here. Well, where's here? Yeah, you don't know
Yeah,
where you're going.
put your leg over the rope. Where the fuck is the rope? I don't know where the rope is.
What did it feel like? Because one person that left because he didn't want others to depend on him. You had to totally depend on other people. What was the experience of having to depend on those four other people to get you from point A to point B? Because sometimes that, like even in our world as entrepreneurs, that's a challenge for many entrepreneurs.
And it's very similar to my entire emotional spectrum, I bet. There were moments where I felt very helpless or like I was holding them back. I felt guilty and
Oh yeah,
shameful that
guilty. Yeah,
like
yeah.
I can't move any faster. I'm going. I don't even know how fast I'm going, but I promise you I can't go any faster.
You were not going fast.
I am sure of that. uh, then other times I'm like, I'm doing the best I can. Leave me alone. Like, stop yelling at me. It's not helping. Give me instruction that I understand. Because if you give me an instruction based on your visual cue, uh, there's nothing I can do with it. It has no value to me. So clearly a translation issue. That's totally true for entrepreneurship and leadership in general. Like if you tell me an objective and I don't understand it, I'm definitely not going to get it. Right. As leaders, I think that's important. Then I think the other part of the emotional that I really struggled with was I can't move as fast as everybody. And movement for me,
And they weren't moving fast.
I'm sure they weren't. It, but the context felt like they were moving much faster, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But when I know that I'm not moving, like I'm holding on to wires and I'm up high. I'm up high enough that if I wasn't blindfolded, I'd still be nervous, right? Even knowing I got like a rope holding me like for safety, but if I'm nervous about that, I'm sure as shit nervous without being able to see. And like I'm I'm holding on really tight. All my muscles are engaged to just hold me still. And I'm like fighting moving because I don't know what to choose. I don't have the option of choice the way I would. The most I can do is like slide my fingers and toes along the rope, but outside of that, I don't have enough context to really make any good choices.
I do remember one of them saying, because there was also a rope where times you had to sit on the rope or at least lean back on the rope. And and they're yelling to tell you to sit on the rope. And I'm like, he doesn't know where the rope is. He can't see the rope.
Yeah, yeah. I have no idea where this fucking rope is.
There had to be a lot of fear that comes with it. Anxiety, I guess, is probably a better word.
Certainly a lot of fear and anxiety. Some of those came up. The harder part though is I have my athletic ability. Like I am athletic. I'm coordinated. I'm strong, and none of those things mattered. like the basis of my identity was stripped from me because I can't see.
So what mattered? If all of that stripped, what mattered? In that moment, what mattered?
Very little. I like trust everybody else and depend on them. But none of my strength didn't matter. Athleticism and coordination didn't matter. And those are not only core components of identity, those are core components of like how I've been able to avoid danger and like stay safe, right? And all the other obstacles I can navigate with those three things. But now, like, it doesn't matter if I'm coordinated. I can put my foot out in front of me, but if I can't tell there's a rope there or not, what good is that, right? So it was an identity challenge of like the things that would make me valuable in this exercise. I don't have them.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me, and we've talked about this before, but in my previous life, it's very similar to that. That's essentially what a dark night is. With that kind of language is used in many different ways, but the more authentic version of a dark night is like all the systems and everything that has worked with you up to that point no longer works, and
Yeah.
so you're just it feels like wandering. You couldn't wander very far, but you're still learning to trust to go in the dark.
Yeah. And I had to trust me. And also I knew that I couldn't only trust me. I had to trust them. It was a team game too.
The correct, yeah, yeah, it's a both. But that trust, I think, the trusting of the self is often the much harder component for people because we want that outside validation that what we're doing is right, good, proper, however you want to describe that. And so, learning to trust it for yourself is the challenge. For entrepreneurs, for people in general, is I think the more challenging piece of kind of growing as a person.
I agree. It was an exhausting exercise mentally as much as physically. Physically, I was definitely gassed by the time we finished that exercise because I had to be so engaged physically to not just fall. And then I did fall, where I was like falling back, and I'm hugging the rope for dear life, and I can't see. And the only thing I can do is like hold on tighter, and that's affecting everybody else.
Right. And that which also is a problem in life is that control piece. When it feels like things are out of control, our natural inclination is to try to control what we believe we can't control or are unable to control. So how many of those things apply to our lives, our business?
It was a great experience for opening up some work for sure. I walked away recognizing a couple patterns. Certainly the takeaway of my identity being coordination and athleticism and strength, and seeing what value I have when that's stripped away is interesting, right? When I can't see the basis of being almost any athlete. I happen to know a junior, not a junior, an Olympic athlete that's blind. She swims. I happen to know her, but outside of that, like most sports are predicated on sight. That maybe you can get away not hearing, maybe you can get away not talking, maybe you can get away not having legs, but most of the time you need to be able to see, and that felt like a tremendous depowering. Like all of the things that I've relied on are gone. Really challenging.
Yeah, it's depowering and learning to empower in a different way.
For sure. For sure. To recontextualize. I think being blind is also obviously with this being called living vision, there's a lot of context to the word blind, but to me, the connection between an experience like this and blindness, when it comes to where I want to take the business or where I want to take my life or where I want to take my circle, my relationships, my adventure, like being able, when you take away not being able to see, the first thing that sets in is panic. When you take away, I know where I'm going, the first thing that sets in is panic. And I'm willing to bet there are some entrepreneurs here that play it cool on the surface, right? They're like a duck, cool on the surface, paddle like hell underneath, but deep down are really panic.
And another way of putting it is be mindful of where scarcity is playing a part in how you're running life business.
Yeah.
Because you're focusing on what's missing. Essentially, I'm missing my vision. You're essentially focusing on what's missing rather than what is.
Yeah. I've been watching the Marvel series Daredevil Born Again. I really liked the way Netflix did that series. Then they brought it back like 6 years later. Brought back the original cast. Like it's been interesting to see how they've done it. But I love that series. The series is about a blind lawyer. Long story made very short. Blind lawyer who has supernatural sort of senses otherwise, right? So he can sort of like echolocate people, and he's a badass fighter that goes and stops crime and criminals. But his sight is not there, and he has all these other abilities that are amazing, right? And I was trying to channel my inner Daredevil, and I'm like, I'm trying to listen to all this shit and like hear the birds. None of that mattered because I was freaking out. And even at the very end of the exercise,
However, it didn't look like you were freaking out.
and that's because I know how to keep my composure. But this is where entrepreneurs are too. Know how to keep your composure, but you're freaking out and you won't ask for help.
Right. Everything inside is falling
Everything's
apart.
fine. No, I'm fine. I don't need help. Why would I pay for coaching? Why would I go to a retreat? Why do I spend time in therapy? Why? I'm fine. Guys, I'm fine. Don't worry. Guys, it's fine. And when you live like that, you basically just push off the problem. Like I had, in that case, I had no choice but to sit in the shit of like, you can't see, you need help, you need these people around you, need to build a team around you. No matter how chaotic the team is, you need to rely on them.
Is that a good team to have around me?
And you've got to move inch by inch, step by step. I just think that when we get blind, when we don't see, the tendency is to like try to go faster. And this was a great example, like that does not work. And the guide or whatever you want to call him, the organizer, facilitator was like, hey, slow down. Right. He sort of set that by making different boundaries and checkpoints. But if there's a lesson from that, it certainly was that I had no choice but to slow down. I was not given any other, there was no way for me to go faster in that exercise.
Yeah.
Blindfolded 40 yards up.
You had already said like you may have been moving like 3 inches, but it might have felt like 3 feet over the course of, because there's no.
The moment where they asked me to step over the rope was terrifying. Well, again, like
just to be clear, they who had their eyes open had difficulty getting over the rope.
Stay, man. Hey, man, step over the rope. So
and they have their eyes open.
Okay, if I remember right, the rope is in front of me. So both of my hands are like I'm riding a motorcycle, and it's like waist height, and both of my feet are on the wire, and I'm pulling the rope to stay upright, right? So I'm pulling the rope with my arms, kind of like doing a rowing motion to stay on, and they're like, get your leg over the rope. And again, like I've got a good like spatial awareness. So I know that I have to like lift my leg up to get over the rope, but I can't really like see the rope. So they asked me to give them their hand or my hand. So I give my hand to somebody. The most comical thing, the guy, I don't remember who it was, goes like, I wouldn't have known anyway. He goes, give me your hand. I'm like, this is a great example of very poor communication. Give me your hand. So I put out my hand and I'm like hunting for his hand. Finally, we connect. Now I only have one hand on the rope. So my spacing is off. And they're like, just get your leg over the rope.
Oh, yeah, lift your leg at the same time.
The moment that I lifted my leg, so I'm now suspended 40 feet up in the air, holding someone's hand, a rope, and I'm on one foot. And my leg is shaking. The rope is shaking. Like everything's going to shit. That was probably the moment where I was like, I have made a lot of choices in my life. I'm questioning this one. It was so nerve wracking. And I'm not like wildly afraid of heights, but I think this is an entrepreneur problem encapsulated too. Like when you start getting successful and you can't see the next level, I think it gets really scary because you're up a certain amount of height. It feels like you're going to fall all the way down. Like I'm going to go to zero and I'm just going to I'm going to lose it all or I'm going to fall to my death. Like it almost feels that way when you get stuck.
I think I'm just thinking of the woman who was working there that morning. Her and I had several conversations over it. But we were talking about the leap of faith where you jump off the high pole, like the telephone pole. And she had told me that she thinks that's more scary than jumping out of a plane. But there's something about that leap of faith. I'm either going to fall flat on my face or I'm going to fly, or I'm going to have at least going to be a soft landing or something. But you never know until you take the step.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at blindness from this exercise, I would say that going into it, I thought it would be easier than it was. That I thought that navigating this particular challenge would be way easier than it was. And
Yeah,
if I have my sight,
that's why they ask you before you start.
yeah, and to sign a waiver.
Yeah,
Uh, if I had my sight, I think it would have been magnitudes easier. The exact same movement would have been easier. Right, because I can look around.
mean, you had already gotten through at least 2 different exercises at that point.
3. That was the 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by that point, right, confident, muscles are active, like heart's pumping, good. But magnitude's harder not being able to see. And now looking back at it, I could probably go into it a lot different because now I know what it feels like to be blindfolded and up that high, right? I could go in with some context, but without knowing what was going on, blindness scares me. It scares me a lot. One of my probably most, like I have really good vision too. I think the last time I went to a doctor, he was like, dude, like you have fantastic vision, like 2010 or something. I don't know how the numbers work.
All I have to do is take my glasses off and I can't see across.
And you're blind. I put on those glasses, man. I know. So here you are as an entrepreneur and you lose your primary sense, whatever that sense is. That might mean like, I know where I'm taking the company. That might mean I have my key employees on my team, like somebody just left. That might mean, a big client just walked away. That might mean, we don't have the kind of capital and runway that we once did, or like, hey, something happened and I need to pull cash out and like now our reserves are low. Whatever it is that creates the quote unquote blindness, the connection to vision will create an emotional hazard for everybody if you don't slow down and get help.
I would say that's the primary thing. You have to slow down almost to a point where it feels like you stop. You're not really stopping. You're just slowing down.
You're just inching along the wire.
Correct. But that slowdown is so necessary in order to move forward.
Yeah.
You essentially have to assess as you go. You have to assess as you go at that point, step by step.
What an interesting exercise for me to go through. And candidly, I don't know.
I've told you this already several times. I give you a lot of credit for doing it because I saw how quickly the other 2 backed out of the experience.
Terrifying. Also, we would never have made it with 3 of us like that.
Oh my God. Because essentially at that point, you only have 2 people, I think, that
would have been nuts. Now, I will say this. Here's something interesting that is really, this is so connected to like why you and I are here. And I hope someone can hear this and interpret the emotion of it. Having gone through that, if I were to be the leader or have the sighted person, I could guide that blind person very well. I could communicate what is needed way better than I got because I went through it and I understand what's happening emotionally and what's going through their head and what they cannot do, which is create context. There's no context. You just have what you're attached to. That's all you know. So I could lead that person way better having been blind at their point of blindness.
Isn't
Which
that the rule? That's the rule of coaching, right? You can only coach
that is
people.
the rule of coaching. And I think that's why I'm here and why you're here and why we're here as a team is to help someone when they're blind because we have been blind, not because we can see better than they can see. And that to me is like a big distinction as to like the world of coaching and how you pick where you put your investment of time and energy and trust and faith and relationship. Like I don't go back to that moment because I can see. Go back to that moment because I can understand what it's like to feel blind. Right? I can go back to that moment and talk about what fears were coming up, what shit was hitting the fan. Also, what kind of like old stuff, wounds and trauma and like things like that were coming up in that moment, and then say, look, hey, I'm right here next to you. Right? I can be with someone in that moment of need way differently because I've been in the moment of need just like them. And I think that that's the defining metric between a consultant and a coach.
Or a great coach and someone who probably shouldn't coach.
Yeah, a coach and a great coach.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think it's learning to you learn how to navigate a certain darkness. And when you learn how to navigate that sort of certain darkness, you could help navigate someone else through that darkness because you know it so well. You know every pitfall, you know every landmine, you know everything that's going to come along the way because you have walked that darkness yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a loss of vision in more than just this moment. I've had it throughout the course of my entrepreneurial career. I've had it in,
Think about the move out here to
uh,
Arizona.
yeah, certainly a loss of vision moving out to Arizona. That whole saga, which in some ways still continues to this day, the transition, even into fatherhood, came with a loss of vision. And what I think I've learned through this experience that mirrors the other sequence of more business oriented loss of vision is how to hold on to the rope you got, right? Keep your hands on the rope. Like don't let go of the rope. Also, don't stop moving. And invest very intentionally in the team that you put around you.
Oh, yeah. If you weren't going to say that, I was going to say that. Who are the guys around you that can help you
Yep.
navigate that?
Yep.
Because
And
at that point, they have to have your best interest.
correct. I was just going to allude to that too. There's a very big difference when someone is blind or not at their best or hurting or lost, etc. You learn who your friends are. That's one of the hardest parts in entrepreneurship is that when things are going swimmingly, you got a lot of friends, got a lot of people to show up to your parties and your events and your shit. But like when shit hits the fan, stuff starts going down, you learn a lot about your friends.
I prefer friends in low places.
Marty's favorite karaoke song. The thing though that you want to stack is your dark day friends, right? That's really where you want to stack the deck. Like your bright day friends, they're great. Like I'm all for that. Like, hey, show up when it's party time. Like, please come on through. You can bring the booze, you can drink the booze and eat the food. Like all good. But
Yeah.
if you stack the deck with aces for your dark days, I really think that you're going to navigate well. And I think that the difference between good coaches and great coaches to that point earlier about navigating blindness is great coaches show up when it's hardest. Good coaches will tell you to figure it out and call them back. And I've had friends, I've had partners that are that style of coach, right? They're like, nope, I don't go into the darkness. Nope, I'll stay right here. I'm taking my blindfold off. You're on your own. And I think that the difference, and certainly the sentiment that I, at very worst, hope to maintain, if not work very diligently to maintain, is that I'm going to show up for you when it's hardest. I'm going to show up for you when it's shittiest. I'm going to show up when everybody else has abandoned you and said that you need to figure it out. I'm going to show up for you then. Actually, there's a moment we had a client, one of ours. This was recent, and he texted me. And he was like, "Dude, I, I think, I'm just a lost cause, and like, I think we should stop coaching, and like, I just don't have this figured out. Like, I think I should just call you back in a couple months when I have it figured out." And that was like a text, and 3 minutes later, I called him, and it was like, "Dude, I'm not going to let you sink right now. I'm not going to let you go into this dark rabbit hole that you're spiraling, because having been in the blindness, I know where this goes."
And I mean, you've said this. I've said this many times. The only path to is through. Like you have to go through it. You
Yep.
If you're the person you're going to avoids the darkness in their life, they cannot help you navigate darkness. They might be able to sympathize with you,
Yeah.
but they you need someone who knows what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah. What I've learned going through my storms is that it's actually really easy to tell when someone understands what you're going through. It's really, really, really easy. Because the person that doesn't understand will be like, "Oh man, that sounds hard." The person that understands will be like, "What do you need?" In like a totally different tonality too, right? It's not like, it's like, "Do you need gauze? Like you're bleeding. Do you need gauze, or are you in pain?" Right? There's just different questions
Correct. Yeah.
that you ask because you understand it. Uh, and
Yeah.
in my view, I don't think you need to have gone through the darkness to be able to ask for help. You just want someone that has been through the darkness in your help.
Correct. I may have told you this story, but it came to me while we're talking here. The one time I went to the Grand Canyon, I'm gonna look at go watch the sunset in the Grand Canyon, which is great. It is stunning. I mean, it's like this part of Arizona as well. The sunsets are just great. What I didn't know was that when that sun went down, it gets dark immediately. Like
Mm.
there's no light, there's no nothing. And it may have been before like cell phones were common play, at least with flashlights. And I had to find my way back to the bus in the dark. And I knew that on the left side of me was the Grand Canyon, was the hole.
Oh boy.
And I knew I knew I had to go to the right. I was so afraid that day of stepping too far in one direction that I would fall into the Grand Canyon that, yeah, I'll never forget that. It wasn't until I got further along where I could start to see the light where the bus stop was, where I had to go. But there's scary moments when you have to totally rely upon your own inner stuff to
Yeah.
get you back out of that space.
It's also interesting that you have to rely on your own internal GPS,
Mhm.
and also your measurement system is not calibrated at all for that.
Oh,
So like,
correct.
I bet if you went back the next day, like the path is like 10 feet, but you're like huddled across you're
Correct.
like up against a wall,
Correct.
but you have 10 feet, right? You have plenty of
Correct.
room, but there's no way to know that. Just like me
Correct.
being on the ropes, there's no way to know any of these things. You just got to go.
And it's like immediate darkness. As soon as that sun's below
The horizon.
the horizon, it's gone. There's no
Yeah.
light. And it in those, I think all the national parks, there is no artificial lighting. You just got to find your way.
Yeah. Yeah. The challenge, I think,
There are a lot of people out there who carry artificial lights that will try to tell you how to navigate. It's still artificial.
yeah. Yeah. I think the challenge with entrepreneurship and vision is that, like, it's all fine and well, and it's all fun and games as an entrepreneur until shit gets hard. And any entrepreneur worth their fucking marbles has had to go through this. And like, I've read this recently. One of, I think it was Peter Thiel's investment theories, big private equity guy. He said, I wouldn't invest in someone that hasn't failed. And I think the reason is, and I have failed. To everyone clear on the internet that's listening, like, I have failed. I have
And if there is
bombed.
any doubt,
Yeah, I've failed. I have lost other people's money. I've lost my own money. I've lost companies. I've lost friends. I've lost partners. I've failed, and I'm not afraid of sharing that. What I think is important though is what you want is someone that failed and kept going, right? What you want in a coach is someone that failed and kept going. What
Right.
you want in a mentor is someone that failed and kept going. What you want in somebody that you want to invest in is someone that failed and got back up. And to get to the other side of vision when you are blind is how you get better vision. It's how you reassess like what matters and what doesn't. It's how you know what you stand for and what you don't. It's how you reprioritize your passion projects from your commitments. It like sorts. It's a great sorting machine. It's like the Harry Potter had. It really just identifies like I'm in this and I'm in it even after getting my ass kicked. That's what matters to me.
Gryffindor.
Slytherin. I don't actually know what would make a person what or what, but I know if you say Gryffindor, I'm supposed to say Slytherin because they're like rivals or something, right?
Yeah, yeah. At this point, I wouldn't even know which was
Yeah.
which.
Well, whatever, we're winning.
Yeah. What I thought of was because that person who has failed and has been through it can be a leader. This is a conversation I was having yesterday with my own therapist. That you can be a leader and you could be the cheerleader. I don't just want a cheerleader, like because it
Yeah.
sounds hollow
Yeah.
when you haven't been there. You need the person who can lead and cheer at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the language I would use is like, you can pay money for a champion, someone that's like, hey, you got this. Right. And that's easy. But it's very different to be like, dude, I have no idea where to go. Show me the way. And I've said it a lot with prospects and even with clients as we go through the journey. Like the only way and the only reason I can take you to a clear vision is because I have lost mine many times. The only way I know the way, like the process and the method that we use is because I didn't do it. And I had to figure it out along the way over and over and over. And, if I'm going to Mount Kilimanjaro and I'm hiking and I hire a Sherpa, you sure as shit better believe I want him to have gone up that mountain a couple times before me. I don't want a first timer.
That's my first time on the mountain.
Here we go. Woohoo. What I want in a Sherpa is not someone that's perfect. It's not that I want someone that's going to like love. He's not like, yeah, the mountain's so no, I don't care if you love the mountaintop or not. What I care is, have you walked this? Have you walked the thing that you're about to walk me through? And again, that's a very different commitment.
Because that person understands you and they know 500 feet up the mountain that you're going to encounter this issue and this person might have this problem, and how do we reroute in order to make sure that person's safe getting through.
Yeah, and that you make it ultimately we're both committed to like you get to the top, right? But yeah, in 500 feet, the oxygen levels change and you're going to lose your breath. So I'm not going to walk ahead of you. I'm going to walk behind you. Or, hey, in 90 minutes, we're going to hit this like big rock face. I'm going to carry your bag and my bag. I got you. Like you scale the wall, but I carry both the bags. Like I've done this enough time. I can carry both bags. You don't know what you're doing. Probably going to need help. And that coaching container is incredibly sacred. And I've had people that they have changed my life, not because they know the answer, but because they know the question, because they've been down there long enough to know like what to ask and what not to ask. And I think that's important.
The other piece I had thought of while you were talking was it's also not a one-time deal. It's not once where I cross that that yardage. That there are different moments when a vision doesn't last forever, right? It has to be refined and renewed. That you will face blindness again. It will come again.
The other thing, I have heard the quote like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to rewrite that quote to the blinded leading the blind, right? That they like having gone through a period of blindness, I've been blinded, that now there's a chance to lead someone that can't see. I had a call with a client today, only a couple hours ago now, and we were talking about the 3 phases of freedom. So there, I'll draw them for those of you that are on YouTube while I describe them.
Please tell us.
I will. So 3 phases of freedom. First phase of freedom is freedom from. This is, I don't want to work, or I don't want to have a job, or I don't want a boss, right? Those kinds of things where I'm basically driven by pain. Freedom from is where most people go for financial freedom. They're like, I want financial freedom. I don't want to have to work. I don't want to have to.
Yeah, it's often a running from something.
Exactly. I'm running from, you can replace the F with an R really fast. The next phase of freedom is limbo. So sort of marked by, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, or maybe I just sold my company. I don't know what's next. I am stuck. I've plateaued. Like, limbo is a very awful phase. I've been rereading Dante's Inferno, learning a lot about that. And the third phase of freedom is freedom to. And the difference right here, in freedom from, we make a commitment to get out. So we exit whatever we were at. Then we enter this middle phase where we don't want to make any commitments. We don't want to deal with the hard shit, or maybe we don't know what we want anymore, or we're no longer a part of the family, or we're no longer part of our friend group, but where do we go from here? And the only way to get to is to commit. So this freedom to is really about, can you make a commitment? And without that commitment, nothing changes. You just go back to limbo. So this call with the client, we were talking about these phases, and he was saying that, he's essentially been going through this lack of commitment, this limbo phase for a long time, because he hasn't chosen what he wants to pursue. Doesn't know what lifestyle he wants. He was like, I wanted financial freedom, but now I think I want lifestyle freedom. And I'm like, great. That will require you to commit to something. And I think in this if we're using blindness as this, overarching metaphor for what entrepreneurship can feel like, blindness is, I don't want to commit. I don't want to go across this terrain. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to not move. And because now my sense is taken away, I'm just going to stay still. I'm just going to let things be as they are.
You'll eventually become a victim of it.
Right.
Like, even a person who is physically blind has to work through that same semblance of freedom, that it doesn't make them a victim.
The first part of limbo, from what I've seen and experienced, is great, because it feels like rest. It's recovery, right? You have gotten free from something, so you're like, yes, this is awesome. And then the back half of limbo is torture. The back half of limbo is like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not growing, not progressing.
You can't stay there very long.
No. It was interesting to talk through this, because where we got was, we got into business and what's been happening and what got him here, and, how it won't get him where he wants to go. And we started really digging into it. And what was most fascinating is, he would have to leave limbo. He would basically have to decommit from something and then commit to something else, right? It was just like too complicated, too many mediocre things are creating this limbo of like, I'm not going to make any changes. And the only way to change that situation would be to cut something and then grow something, like pruning the garden. And just even bringing that up brought up a lot of emotion for him.
In my experience, limbo, you can only stay there for so long because it's filled with a lot of uncertainties. If you're not willing to move forward, you will fall back you'll just go back to what you were doing. It's like classic midlife crisis thing. I'm just going to go back and suffer through it, and maybe I'll come out of it at some point. But
Which is, so this is entrepreneurship 101, right? You build a business, you sell the business, now you're in limbo. And if you sit in limbo long enough, you just go build the same thing, or you go back and help, or you go consult, right? Instead of taking the time to say, hey, what's my vision, and getting help in limbo, essentially where we come in, and then saying, this is the vision that I want to build. This is the commitment that I'm willing to make to go do something new, to grow, to change, to evolve. You just end up trapped here. And in a way, it almost pulls you back into the first freedom, which is freedom from. Right? And then you got to get out of it again.
not almost, it does pull you back there. As someone who's been there many times, that's where you're going. Because it's filled with uncertainty, and humans don't do well with uncertainty. You eventually want some semblance of known and safety.
Yeah. Yeah. It, it isn't uncommon for me to really push buttons at this, like, what are you committed to? What are you committed to? And just watch someone find hundreds of reasons not to commit to something they started to tell me they wanted.
Because it's change.
Yeah, it forces it is, right? It's moving across the ladder blind.
Yep.
And if you commit to, let's say you've got 6 businesses and you need to make the commitment to like focus on one. It's going to require massive effort to make one your focus and to cut probably harder to cut the others than it is to focus on the one. But it's uncertainty. There's a bit of like, well, what am I betting on here? That's
Yeah.
very
The,
ironic.
the other thing that comes to mind, and we may have talked about this on another podcast, you have to be good with being a beginner, because that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah.
beginner.
You start over when you make the commitment.
Yeah.
It makes me, so the way I would connect this to the rope experience, like
Essentially you putting the blindfold on.
well, when I put the blindfold on, the first commitment that I had to make was like, okay, put the blindfold on and keep it on.
Good,
Right.
right.
So like that was the first commitment. Then when I got on the rope, the way I would connect that is like, now I'm in limbo. I'm literally hovering.
Correct.
And the only way to get to the commitment is to be like, I'm blind and now I'm going across this cliff, this gorge, blind.
And is there a point where you finally say, maybe it might be hard to commit at the very beginning of that, but at some point, most people, I got this far, I have to keep going.
Yeah. And the only way to do that is to be like, I'm getting to the other side, even though I don't know how.
Correct. Even if you can't make that commitment at the beginning, you don't even know what it is. At some point, it happens. Like, you weren't going to take the blindfold off halfway across.
Hell no. Although I bet people do, right? I bet that happens.
Yeah,
but
doubt is always going to creep in, because
totally, it's loud.
We have to rely on vision so much.
Yeah. The other part of this that stands out is I had no idea, because I was blind and initially in limbo, the like freedom to, right? The commitment to get to the other side. I have no idea how far that is. And I think that's a really important thing for entrepreneurs to hear, because when you start in freedom from, right, you're like, I need to get to $10,000 a month in passive income and then I can be free, right? And then we get there and we're like, well, shit, now what do I do with my time? Because I don't have to work, but I'm still working and I don't know if I like my work. What do I do? Right. But this never ends. Like phase 3, the goal is to stay in phase 3, where you are choosing what you want to commit to. You are intentional about what you're committing to. Not like, well, I'm going to do this for a little while and then I'll come back. Like, no, pursue something that's meaningful. Take on a big vision. Take on something that you don't even know if you can accomplish.
As you go along, you can tell me if I'm wrong. As you go along, there might be moments of freedom from, but it's more about, all right, do I just need to delegate that away?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. It's not so much that I'm running from something. It's I have to get it off my plate.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe there's a cyclical nature to all of this, right? We build up, everything.
Yes, there is.
We get out of certain things and then we hover and then we commit and then we get out of those things and we hover and we commit. But I see more people, especially entrepreneurs, that have not been through a limbo yet, stuck in limbo. Right? I just sold my company and I don't know what I'm doing next. And here's the cosmic irony to me. If I ask people like, hey, tell me about the lifestyle that you want, most people could come up with something, right? Man, I'd love to go see baseball games with my kid and work out twice a week. And I'm like, all right, you win the lottery. What would you like your lifestyle to be? You don't have to work anymore. What would you like your lifestyle to be? That's when people freak out because they've built their whole sense of lifestyle around like work. And if that relationship changes, if you flip it upside down or rotate it, I think more times out of not, you don't have context to anything. Like if you don't have to, again, most people are like their purpose, their like motivation to get out of bed and move forward is work. If you take
Yeah.
that away from most people, they just sink.
Not that there's anything wrong with work. It's just that there's more to you than just work.
Well, here's where I would push some buttons. I think it's about what you work on, not
Cor-
whether you work.
Correct.
I
Correct.
think especially for men, I think that you have got to be working on something. Even if that's like making fucking cabinets in your garage, you
Right.
have got to have something to push towards. Otherwise you'll just unravel.
Yeah. And if you're married, you'll drive your wife insane.
Yeah. Oh, I've coached those guys too. Yeah, my wife tells me I need to get a job. Like, I don't have to get a job. Dude, you don't need a job, you need like forward motion,
I knew a guy
right?
that
You're in
retired.
limbo.
Knew a guy that retired. He was at home. His wife couldn't handle it because he was treating her like an employee. That's all he knew. It was the only way that he knew how to
Yeah.
function.
Yeah. That's kind of funny actually. Like if I look at my most productive times, there was a really good balance between, work and play and work and self-care, like all these things. My least productive times were times where I was working the most, right? Production went down. Uh, and the times where I was working the least. So that sweet spot, it's like a bell curve,
Yeah.
right? The sweet spot is in the middle. Like you're at your highest production, not when you're working the most, not when you're working the least. You're working an appropriate amount to like move you forward, to motivate you, to require you to grow and step up, that summons the best out of you, that forces you to re-identify yourself and lead people and show up and build a vision and, design your life and be intentional. Like that's when you're at your best, not when you have no commitments.
So that is a lesson in the challenge course as well, though, because your level of awareness only becomes more heightened when you're in an element like that, where you're even if you can't see, you're aware that there's a lot going on.
Yeah. And the rest of the world was very inconsequential at that point,
Correct.
right? So it like heightens your awareness, but shrinks the field.
Yeah. The things you think are important aren't always that important.
Yeah. Which that to me is what this freedom too is all about, where you're raising your awareness to what matters and you're shrinking the field of what's important. And that's where you get that's what brings out production. That's what it's like tunnel vision, right? It's like these are the things that I'm focused on. And that's what vision is all about. What are you focused on? Where are you going? And in that, the ideal case, especially for high performing men, is hey, these are the things that matter to me. And I'm going to make them happen. I'm going to go after them wholeheartedly. And in that, I'm willing to leave certain things in the wake. I'm willing to let go of certain things. And I'm only going to do that by my choosing, right? It's no longer the running from where it's like, I got to. It's like, no, I'm choosing this. Same way you would choose a partner or a friendship. Like, hey, I'm choosing to be all in on this, but I'm going all in. And in that, the awareness goes up and the field shrinks. Like that to me is the whole goal of anything, right? When I commit to something, my awareness in that field goes up, my field shrinks.
Yeah, I'm thinking like even up on that ropes course, although you couldn't physically see it, you knew you were going somewhere. You knew you had to get there. Like you couldn't just hang out on the rope the rest of your life and hopefully someone will drag me over there or whatever it may be.
Right. Someone will come find me.
Correct. You still had to, even though I can't see it, I'm still moving that way.
Yeah.
The ropes really is limbo.
Yeah. The road, definitely. Yeah. Yep. Navigating limbo. Well, to dove
Hey Google,
take all of
navigate
that.
me to limbo.
What's that?
I said, hey Google, navigate me to limbo. Can it do that?
Navigate me to limbo. Yeah. Delete your calendar. You're in limbo.
Right.
If you are at all inspired by the idea of a ropes course challenge or the idea of putting your senses in some sort of blender to challenge the way that you see things, if you are stuck in limbo, not clear on your vision, not even clear on where to go, or not even clear that there is another way or another side, I would encourage you to reach out to us and just ask for help. Send us a note, send me a DM, book a call on our website, and let's see if we can help you get out of this. Like, there's an inherent suffering in the lack of vision when you don't know the way out and you don't know how to get where you want to go or even where you want to go. And I don't want you, regardless of who you are, where you are, to go through that alone. I think it's really important that you're able to get help. So places to do that, you can find us on Instagram and send us a note.
Well,
You can book a call on the website.
most people, myself included, cannot navigate darkness alone. You cannot navigate darkness alone. You need someone who knows that darkness.
Yep. I can tell you that I can't either. So if you're in that and it feels like no one would understand, it feels like no one would get you, no one would listen, no one would pay attention to you, and no one's coming to save you, reach out, send us a note. You can go to Instagram, go to our website. You can put a note on the podcast. You can go to YouTube and make a comment on a video. There's so many outlets. Just don't wait. There's risk involved with waiting. The longer you wait, the harder it is to get you out. So we will be there for you. We can help you build a really powerful and connective living vision that helps move you forward if you're stuck in limbo. But even more, we just might be an ear for where you are and give you some tools and tactics where you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to pay us anything, but we are happy to show up for you if you're in that moment. Follow along the podcast. If you like this, we love a review. Take 2 minutes, give us 5 stars and tell us what you love about it. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, give us a comment of what stood out to you for this, maybe what reached you in your moment, in your climb across a 40-foot tall ropes course. And know that you got at least 2 guys and every one of our team back behind us that are here to help you. Do not stay blind forever. And hopefully we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.